a certain quarterback out in the Bay Area got paid $53 million a year. Now, Josh, last year we had the conversation around Jordan Love, and we had the conversation around Tua. You were more in favor of paying Jordan Love than I was. We were both in favor of not giving Tua a massive extension. What'd you think of the Brock Purdy extension?
It's the Kyle Shanahan effect, honestly. But given this contract, how are they going to afford to pay the weapons around him?
By the way, they just paid Fred Warner $21 million a year today.
Yeah. Why not take the Jalen Hurts approach? That's why the Eagles, I think, are positioned to win 2 or 3 more Super Bowls at least.
Oh, music to my ears.
With Jalen Hurts is because he took a deal that was not only worked for him, but it worked for the Eagles. So they were still able to go out and sign key players on both the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. I would say more so on the defensive side, but you get my overall point. And like Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud, they both showed that they can be very good quarterbacks, at least in their rookie seasons. We'll see what Jaden does in year 2. And CJ took that sophomore slump.
He did, but he did get to the Texans the playoffs, and he did win them a playoff game. I have to give him credit for that.
But what I'm getting at, and I'll get back to Brock Purdy in a minute, is are they going to take the Jalen Hurts approach of taking a team-friendly deal, or are they going to take the approach of let me just get as much money as I can? I'm not quite sure where Brock Purdy falls in that conversation. I'm leaning a little more towards himself rather than the team, though.
So, you know my thoughts on Brock Purdy.
My overall point.
You know my thoughts on Purdy. I think he's an average quarterback. I think he's a bigger version of Tua, where if he has his weapons, he has a good offensive line, he has a good system in place, everything feels right. Brock Purdy can win you a lot of games, and he may be a very good distributor of the football, and he can read defenses quickly, and that's why Kyle Shanahan loves him. But when the weather is crappy, like the game a couple years ago,
here in Cleveland.
In Cleveland. How about the game last year in Buffalo in the snowstorm? Brock Purdy folds. And last year when he did not have Brandon Ayuk, when he did not have Trent Williams, when he did not have Deebo Samuel, when he did not have Christian McCaffrey, he was a different quarterback. And that would concern me if I'm San Francisco. A lot like Dallas, a lot like Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence, a lot like Miami with Tua. I think they felt trapped where it was like, we can't do better than Brock Purdy, but Brock Purdy's not bad, so we might as well pay him. The only good thing about the contract for San Francisco and Purdy specifically, they did it now, knowing that, as I said last week, Josh, this is, in my opinion, and by metrics, it's the easiest schedule in the last 10 years in the National Football League. This schedule is an absolute cakewalk. It's 11 to 12 wins minimum on this schedule. So Purdy's going to have a good year. Everybody's going to say he was worth the contract, and look, he's lived up to it. I'm telling you right now, I think it's all fool's gold. And I think a lot like Dak Prescott, when he got paid $60 million last year, you're going to look up in 2 years and you're going to go, that's a terrible contract.
Yeah, I agree. Like, they don't have to go to, like, bad weather games, really. They don't have to play at Green Bay. They play Chicago, but it's in San Francisco. They're probably their worst weather game is going to be in Week 13 when they play at Cleveland late November, because you know what Cleveland is like late November. It could be a snowstorm and
Yeah,
minus
that's about.
10.
I mean, maybe the Giants November 2nd, if there's a rare November snowstorm day in MetLife, maybe it's a little cold, but the Giants are going to be terrible by that point anyway. Um, I mean, who knows? But this schedule, I mean, you look at it. They've got Seattle early in the year, who they always, over the last few seasons, have owned. They got the Saints. You got Jacksonville. You got the Giants. You got the Browns. You got Panthers. You got the Titans. You got Indianapolis. And again, Arizona, I think, is going to be a better team, but I don't know how much they match up well with San Francisco. Like, that is, they arguably do not face a top 10 quarterback until like midway through this year with CJ Stroud.
I would argue, okay, maybe not top 10, but I would put Baker Mayfield at least top
That's
15.
that's fair, but like Baker may be a little bit better than Purdy. It's not significant, I don't think. I think CJ Stroud's better than Purdy. I don't think it's actually, I think he's probably more better than Purdy than Baker is to Purdy. But like, that's it. That's my point. They may have two games this whole year where they're at a quarterback disadvantage.
Yeah. I like I said last week, I'm really interested in that week 6 matchup between San Francisco and Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay. I know it's week 6, but I think that game could have major playoff implications in how the NFC looks, especially if the owners approve this new playoff format, which we'll get to shortly.
Yeah, let's actually just get to it now. So, I'll be honest with you. We talked about it a little bit when it was talked about a little bit in March. They tabled it, which makes me nervous that it could pass. I hope it doesn't. I think this would be an absolutely horrific idea by the NFL to change both of these rules. Obviously, I have a personal bias towards the brotherly shove slash tush push. I'll get to that. But in terms of the playoff seeding, I get it that division winners would still get a playoff spot, but it would feel more NBA ish to me where divisions would matter a little bit less because even though you won your division, let's say if you win the division at 9-8, you would be a 7 seed as opposed to a 4 seed. And I get it where it's like, oh, the Vikings won 14 games last year and they had to go on the road. Well, how many times does that happen? Once every 5 or so years. It's very rare. And now, especially as the NFL has gone more quarterback centric, that we get a division like the 2020 NFC East or the 2022 NFC South, where the division winner is under 500. I don't see it happening again for a while. Maybe the AFC South, if something bad happens to CJ Stroud and Cam Ward and Trevor Lawrence and Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones fight for that division. But I don't know. I still want division integrity, and I think winning your division should matter. I think it should guarantee you a home playoff game.
So I found this on Twitter, the NFL nerd, and he wanted to look at how post playoff seedings might have changed under the newly proposed format. In 2022, the Chargers would have had the home game instead of the Jaguars. Dallas would have been at home against Tampa Bay. In 2023, the Browns would have been at home instead of Houston. Philly would have been at home rather than Tampa Bay. And then last year, the Chargers would have been instead of Houston. And then Minnesota and Washington would have gotten home games against the Buccaneers and Rams.
Yeah, the NFC last year would have flipped. The matches would have changed. Washington would have hosted Green Bay. The Rams would have went to Philly. And I believe then that Minnesota would have hosted Tampa. Again, I don't know. The fact that and they're all pointing to, well, the Vikings and Lions game last year had too much on the line. Excuse me? There is no such thing as too much on the line. I love the fact that going into that game, not only was the number 1 seed on the line, but home field advantage and not having to go out on the road to play Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams was on the line. It added an extra layer to that game as opposed to, well, even if we lose, we still get a home game next week. I think this rule, I think it's an overreactionary rule to, I know, again, the last couple of years, maybe one or two playoff matches would have changed. But to me, I like the fact that the NFL remains a lot like baseball. In baseball, they do this for the top three seeds in each division, East, Central, and West, get the home playoffs, and they don't have a problem with it.
No, they don't. If the Guardians didn't have home field advantage, we wouldn't have gotten that iconic grand slam in Game 5 by Lane Thomas against the Detroit Tigers. That game would have been in Comerica Park, and who knows how that matchup would have gone.
No, because we had a better record than Detroit.
I'm just saying theoretically. That's probably not a great example, but you still get my point though. Like,
yeah, again, so I don't know how close this one is to passing. I feel like there's going to be more pushback on this than the second rule on our screen.
Yes. But in terms of baseball, I do like that they made the All-Star game not determine home field advantage and they based it off of record for the World Series. It's interesting that they did that starting in 2017 rather than 2016, because if it had started in 2016, the Cubs would have had home field advantage rather than Cleveland. Just wanted to bring that up based off the discussion we were having. But in terms of, I don't know if you want to respond to that or not.
No, go ahead. I'm good.
Okay. But in terms of banning the tush push, you want to ban it just because you can't stop it? What? This is such a petty response. And the fact that it's getting a lot of support, honestly, is ridiculous. Like, it's hilarious that even Buffalo is pushing to ban it.
That's
They
the
ran
funny
it
part.
themselves.
That's the funny part. And also Green Bay, who, for the record, they ran a version of it. I don't know if you remember in the wild card game, Tyler Craycraft came over from the tight end spot, got under center on sort of wildcat spot, and they pushed him for a first down in the game against Philadelphia last year in the wild card round. Listen, as an Eagles fan, I feel like I have to defend my players. I have to defend my play. I have to defend my turf, even though I know this thing is going to get banned and it is bullshit and it is ridiculous that the NFL is basically saying, well, it's because of player safety. And Howie Roseman, mentioned this in March at the owners meeting. Howie Roseman was very adamant in that owners meeting and basically came out and said, show me the data that says players are going to get hurt on this play. And the NFL basically said, well, there is no data, but based off the positioning of the quarterback, somebody one day is going to get hurt, and when they do, they're probably going to die. And the NFL wants to avoid a lawsuit because they think, in theory, somebody is going to get hurt on this play. And the league, as you mentioned, doesn't like the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles are almost automatic. They're not even automatic. I think we got it at like a 92% rate on it. And by the way, Buffalo was even better than us at it until the AFC Championship game when they refused to differentiate off of it. But you know, a lot of people are like, oh, see, this will show the Eagles. No, they can't go for it on every fourth down. Like Jalen Hurts doesn't already bench 600 pounds and can't get the QB sneak on his own. So it was an innovative play. It was a play. I'm going to go ahead and be the first one to raise my hand and say rest in peace to the brotherly shove, because the Super Bowl was probably the last time it was ever ran. But this notion that it's going to stop the Eagles from their QB sneak down, no, it won't.
No. The Philly will find a way to make a variation of it that is.
By the way, for the record, if this thing does stay in play, I don't care where we're at on the field. The first play next year against Dallas needs to be the brotherly shove.
That would be hilarious. I'd laugh my ass off, actually, if that were the case.
I would do it the whole drive. I don't care if we punt. I would run it all the way down the field.
You know what? Actually, here's what I would do. You know how teams like unveiled championship banners, and all that? What I would do for the Eagles is I'd have unveil the Super Bowl banner, but somewhere on it I would have it say brotherly shove.
Yeah.
I'm
not wearing my brotherly shove shirt today because it is cold out in Cleveland. It's a short sleeve shirt, but next week, if it is banned, I will be wearing it on the show.
I would hope so. Because like I said, the NFL is just being petty. Oh, we can't stop it. We gotta say it's illegal. There's nothing illegal about it. There's nothing.
They're probably going to write it in the rule that you cannot push somebody from behind. So what's going to happen is I think they're going to say the formation that they line up in is okay. You just cannot push from behind. And they said what may happen is like if the pushing starts, the referee might just blow it dead. That's a rumor out there that's the way. They wouldn't necessarily outlaw it, but it would be like you're not allowed to push. If the push starts, the play is just dead.
So they wouldn't even call like illegal formation or anything like that.
That's what it sounds like. Again, who knows? We did get an iconic moment in the NFC Championship game when Frankie Louvu decided to jump over the pylon so many times that Sean Oakley came on the mic, I don't know if you remember this, and said, we can award a score to the offense if this keeps happening.
I do remember that.
That's what this play has turned into. And you're right. It's jealousy. As an Eagles fan, I am LMFAO at this because it's like, I don't know. I don't even feel like we need it. I just love the play, and I love being a cocky, hey, you know what?
You know what's funny is after the Eagles successfully ran the Philly special in the Super Bowl, what did they do on opening night against the Atlanta Falcons?
They did a version of it.
They did it, almost an identical version of it.
And then we tried to copy it. Just like, by the way, Buffalo tried to copy the Tush Push. Green Bay tried to do it. The Giants tried to do it and got 2 linemen hurt on it somehow.
So it would not surprise me, even if it gets banned, if the Eagles go, okay, well, we're going to run a variation of it anyway. Kiss our ass.
You could just do the handoff of it or the pass like they've done in the past.
Yep. And they'll just say to the rest of the league, kiss our ass.